Everybody, this is Rick, and I am in my studio once again, and I'll be doing a demonstration video that's part of my second uh, series of mini paintings. So this is one of the mini paintings for my series 2 of mini paintings, and this is the setup I'll be using, as I have with all the mini paintings in this series. And this is just a series of overlapping leaves. This is the template that you'll find on the project page for this series. And it's 5.5 by 7.5 inches. And I'm just gonna go ahead and we'll get started. So I'm gonna start by working off a lot of this actually is going to be working with positive and negative edges, mostly negative edges. So I'm going to start with a mixture of we'll use some quinacridone and gold. We'll use a little rose madder. Get started with that. And I'm going to start to define some of the edges. So there's a lot that's going to be about edge development. Got a couple things there. Probably going to go with a little smaller brush. Some water with this. And actually, I'll be using my spray bottle. Just a light spray to spread that color a little bit. I'm actually going to use some alizarin crimson and get a little deeper red. And let's see. I'm going to work around some of these shapes, and I'll put a couple layers over some of this. I don't want this to be just a flat wash. I'm going to do a bit of color change in here. Get more of the gold going on if I can. Let's see, we'll work on developing these edges here. I have to be aware of where I've put where there's moisture in the paper, because this is all about edges, and I'm primarily hard edges. So I have to be aware where the paper's wet, where it's not, so I can maintain these edges. If I go in here right now, it's wet from that spray, and I won't be able to maintain an edge. Take some water. And now I'm going to let this use some clear water. Let this kind of just gradate to the white of the paper. And I really don't want to do this edge yet because I want to bring it up to here, and this is still wet. Really, most of the areas where I want to work at the moment have moisture in them, so I'm going to just count this as my first layer, and I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna dry this. Okay, that's dry. And hopefully you can see, what you don't see is a lot of busy brush work. These are just nice, smooth, even application of paint. You want a quality application, nice gradation, a little more solid of a flat wash, but what you don't see are all kinds of tiny little brush marks. So that's something that, to work on. And now I'm gonna take a little bit more of this, a little more alizarin in there. I'm going to start to define the edge of this leaf. So I'm working off the exterior edge of this by painting the shape underneath it. I start to define this. And I like to spray to soften these things, diffuse them, because it gives me a much different transition than I feel I get sometimes with just using the brush. And it does get the paper wet, and I do dry my paper more often when I do that, but I like the result that I get. So now bring some of this in here. Again, defining more and more shapes. Spray that to soften that, pick up some of that moisture. I want to define this a little bit. Soften that. Pick up the extra moisture. And little by little, starting to develop. And I think we're okay. Yeah, no, I want to dry it and I'll work on that edge because it's still wet up in here. All right, it's dry. I'm gonna get some gold, quinacridone gold. I'm gonna start to define what's going on here. There's definitely a technique to how I use this brush, or the spray, I should just say, not the brush. Takes a little bit of practice. I like to build up layers when I work like this. Okay. I'm gonna go a little darker up there. I'm gonna take some alizarin crimson with a little ultramarine blue. I'm gonna go darker up here. And I'll carry some darker color elsewhere. And we use some clear water now. Bring it to there. Bring a little of this in here. Let's see. I think I'm okay here. Sometimes I use my brush, sometimes I use the spray. Depends on how much control I have to have, depending on the area. Well, those are too wet right now. Once again, I'm going to dry this. That's dry, and now I'm going to introduce some green. I'm going to take a little permanent green light, little hands of yellow, just a little sap green. And I'm going to introduce, actually going to add a little red to that, a little more sap green. Don't want it to be quite that bright. So I'm going to take that along with some quinacridone and gold. Maybe even a little gamboge. A little brighter yellow. And I'm going to spray that. I'm actually going to add some gold to my green. I want to get a little bit more of the gold. This is all very wet because I sprayed that, so I don't have to worry about backwashes or anything. A lot of water. So I'm going to introduce a little of that green here. Water there. So this is pretty saturated at the moment. And I work on a 140-pound cold press, but I really don't have much trouble with it. Not getting flat again, as long as I take the time and I dry it. So I worked in a little bit of green, and I think I'll take a little of that here off on the edge. Let some of that come in. Maybe we'll add a little of that into this. Let's see. I think I like that a little bit better with more of a gold. All right, now let me dry this because the whole piece of paper is very wet. All right, this is dry again, and now I want to get a little bit darker. I'm going to take some alizarin crimson along with some ultramarine. Actually, I'm going to take some royal blue. I'll just get fairly dark here. And now we'll put some of this off the edge here. Start to get better definition of the edge. And I need to get some water on that pretty quick. I'll add some more water. I'll just touch that with a tissue to soften that. Now I'm going to take some, actually, I need to help define this edge a little bit too. And then I'll take this. Just working my way around. Just developing the edges using darker values. Add some water. I'm going to go even darker here. I'll break that shape up a little to make it more interesting. Probably need to be even darker in a few of these spots. And I'm going to go darker here. I want to quickly go with some clear water. I'll touch that with a tissue. Maybe here I'll define a little bit more. I mean, you could do this with, really any colors you want. I went back into some damp paper here, so I have to be very careful because I'm going to get a backwash. I want to clean this edge up. All right, I'm going to hit this with a hair dryer. Okay. So one area I want to clean up a little bit is right here. Go on the other side of this. And maybe here I got a little bit of paint with my hand. Because I went on that side, I need to bring that value over here a little bit. A bit more. All right, so let's try that. Okay, that's dry once again. And I think that's as far as we're gonna go. You can have fun with this, just painting these shapes, these edges. So working a lot in negative space, and it's all about edge development. Like I said, you could use many different colors, so have fun with this, and thanks for watching the video.